identity is data. That makes it both powerful and vulnerable, and everyone from election boards to business owners needs to understand why. Could identity management swing an election? What does OAuth have to do with the airline industry? Is IAM also brand management? And why should you care? Get ready for Hello User, where we explore how digital identities shape our world. Subscribe at pingidentity.com/podcast.
Is eating fish healthy? Certainly not for the fish, and most definitely not for the oceans. That's the reason the Sarno brothers, founding chefs at Good Catch Foods, began perfecting 100% plant-based seafood. They wanted sustainable options that are respectful of all creatures and don't harm our oceans. Ask your grocer for Good Catch Foods like tuna and crab cakes, or shop online at goodcatchfoods.com. Then, host your own Fishless Friday and feel good about every bite.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 249. Sarah Kellen Vickers, your time of honoring yourself is almost at an end. This lady, who acted as a capo regime for Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and helped them facilitate their sex trafficking ring for so many years, according to all of the survivors, is finally going to get a dose of justice if these reports that are coming out today can be believed. And as far as that goes, I definitely think that these are rumors that are much more than rumors. Sarah Kellen Vickers played a huge, crucial part in what went on, and she has been fingered by many of the survivors. And when the prosecution said that this case was ongoing and that co-conspirators were still under investigation, this is exactly the kind of co-conspirator that they were talking about. Because Sarah Kellen Vickers, wife of NASCAR driver, ex-NASCAR driver, Brian Vickers, is a very, very, very evil woman, according to everything we have read and from what the survivors have said themselves. And she was one of the core four who was given immunity under Epstein's original deal. But remember, that immunity is only for those crimes. And I am sure it didn't take much digging for the feds to find other crimes that this lady is involved in when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein, his finances, or otherwise. But one thing is certainly clear. The days of these people living the high life, enjoying themselves, jet-setting around the world, posting their highlight reel of their so-called fantastic life on Instagram, those days are coming to a screeching halt. And now, we see the shoe is on the other foot, and we see the panic set in from all of these people who were close to Jeffrey Epstein, who played a huge part in facilitating his crimes, and who are now starting to face the music finally. Our article tonight is from the Daily Mail, and the headline is, "I fear Sarah's next. Parents of Ghislaine Maxwell's lieutenant, Sarah Kellen, worry their daughter will be arrested and charged in Epstein's child sex trafficking ring as they claim teen was brainwashed." And this is what you should have expected from Sarah Kellen and her defenders, I guess you would say. I mean, they're her parents. I can't really, I'm not going to say one way or the other what they should think or say. I mean, I don't have kids myself, but you want to believe that your kid's innocent, I'm guessing. So you would expect their parents to come out and say something like this, and you would expect the people around them, their defense, to try and paint her as a victim. But we all know that's BS according to the survivor's own testimony, and it's powerful, right? We're not talking about some secondhand testimony, some third-hand testimony. This is right out of the survivors' mouths. Go ahead and take a look at what they have to say about Sarah Kellen Vickers. Take a look at what they have to say about Sarah's behavior and the way she treated them specifically. And then tell me that you could possibly believe that Sarah Kellen Vickers should not be arrested and there should not be hard questions sent her way. because there should be. And again, like I always say here on the podcast, I'm not one of these people that's looking for revenge when it comes to stuff like this at all. This is all about justice, right? The justice system working the right way for once. And all of these people that are being brought up are all intricate parts of what went on with Jeffrey Epstein. These aren't just some people that were on the outer ring who are getting drawn in unfairly. That's not the case when it comes to Sarah Kellen Vickers. That is not the case when it comes to the Core Four. All of these ladies deserve everything that is coming their way, and hopefully it'll be coming their way very, very soon. The author of this article is Ben Ashford. She is accused of playing a pivotal role in Jeffrey Epstein's predatory empire, procuring girls, coaching them on how to pleasure the warped financier, pedophile, and acting as a lieutenant, or capo regime as I like to say, to his alleged former co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, and all-around scuzzbag, Ghislaine Maxwell. And again, she is accused credibly. These aren't just, some backroom whispers. She is accused directly by the survivors, who have been very credible, by the way. If I was somebody being fingered by one of these survivors at this point, I'd be having restless nights of sleep, because these ladies have been very, very consistent in what they have said and the evidence that they have produced. But according to her devoutly religious parents, Sarah Kellen should be treated as a victim rather than a co-conspirator, because she too was groomed and manipulated after falling out with her family and going to work for Epstein in her teens. No, sorry, that is unacceptable. She is not a victim. And when they say teens, they're acting that she wasn't 15, she wasn't 16, okay? And furthermore, if she would have come forward when Jeffrey Epstein was originally accused, then this argument might have held a little bit of weight, a little bit of credence. But she didn't come forward. She didn't offer up any information. She didn't come to the authorities and say, "I have evidence." No, she pled the fifth. She continued her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, and she continued to be part of his operation. That's not somebody who has been brainwashed and then, sees the light of day. That's not what occurred here. This is somebody who knew exactly what she was doing, knew exactly the sort of damage she was causing to these girls, and she participated for her own benefit. Thomas and Mary Kellen, both Jehovah's Witnesses, told DailyMail.com in an exclusive interview that their daughter was naive and vulnerable when she met the billionaire pedophile and could now pay a heavy price for being swept into his vile world. You know what? Self-responsibility, okay? We all have to be responsible for our own actions when we're adults. And she willingly participated in Jeffrey Epstein's abuse and Jeffrey Epstein's circle of disgusting behavior for years, and lived high on the hog while doing it. She knew exactly what was going on. She knew that these young girls were being abused. And she sat on the sideline, and she helped, and she coordinated, and she acted in a leadership position in a criminal enterprise. There's no, "Oh, she didn't know," or "Oh, she was brainwashed." That's just not going to cut it. After Maxwell, I think Sarah's next, said 74-year-old Mary, fighting back tears as she revealed fears the youngest of her 5 children could be arrested by federal agents at any moment. She should worry about that, because guess what? A reckoning is coming. And while I feel bad for any parent that has to go through the process of understanding that their child is a predator and a sick, vile person, that does not mean that justice should be suspended. That does not mean that I'm going to feel bad for her, because it's never going to happen. Just read through the text. Here's the thing. When you read through the testimony of these survivors and you read and you hear their own words of what they went through at the hands of this lady, there is no excuse that you could put forward that I would accept that would get her out of serious, significant jail time. Her crimes are that heinous. What happened to all those girls is horrendous, but I do feel that Sarah was also a victim. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I can see she was maneuvered or brainwashed. Well, wasn't that the excuse for why she left home in the first place? Because she felt like she was being brainwashed by the Jehovah's Witness? Isn't that the original reason she gave of why she left home? So, again, she was looking to escape that kind of life, in my opinion. And when she got with Jeffrey Epstein, met up with Epstein and his crew, well, a whole different sort of life was open to her when that door was kicked open. And she loved every minute of it. She relished it. Not only did she relish it, she benefited from all of it. SLK Designs, married to Brian Vickers, hanging out in the pit for the NASCAR events. You name it, she was doing it. Meanwhile, those that she had abused were barely making it by, fighting tooth and nail for somebody to listen to them, fighting tooth and nail for somebody to stand up and say, what in the hell is going on around here? So please, Savior Sarah Kellen Vickers is a victim story for somebody who is buying the BS. I just hope someone doesn't go and kill her. There are a lot of prominent, powerful people out there that don't want anything said. Well, that's pretty powerful stuff, and I agree. I don't want anybody being killed. That's ridiculous. Trials and penalties. That's what sets us apart from just being wild savages. And I think that's all anybody has really asked for in this case. Anybody who is sane or anybody that's truly, wanting to see justice be served. But I can understand why her parents would think like this, considering the circumstances of Epstein's death, considering the scope of this case, and considering the fact that just from what we know, just from what is public knowledge, we understand how powerful some of these people are, and just the lengths that people like this will go to cover their tracks. With Epstein having hanged himself in jail, allegedly, federal authorities in New York are said to be closing in on his alleged accomplices, including several of his glamorous female aides who managed his appointments with underage girls. And this has been the story from the very beginning with the prosecution after Epstein died. They have said that this is the route that they were going to go, that this is where they were chasing down their leads, and that they were going to bring co-conspirators to justice. Well, Ghislaine Maxwell's arrested. Sarah Kellen Vickers getting arrested would most certainly be a step in the direction of really serving justice. Because, again, all you have to do is listen to the survivors themselves, folks. Sarah Kellen Vickers played a huge part and had a leadership role. His former lover, co-conspirator, fellow child abuser, general scuzzbag, Ghislaine Maxwell, a British socialite, scuzzbag, with links to some of the world's richest and most influential people, is already behind bars and has been denied bail as she awaits her trial on sex trafficking charges next July. So this really has to shake up the core four, because usually, like I was talking about, when you have a criminal enterprise like this, they nab the people on the lower rungs first, right? They'll nail the lieutenants, they'll build their case, then they'll go after the bosses. But I think they did it this way this time because they didn't want Ghislaine Maxwell to get wind of what was going on and to really hightail it and to go on the lam. So they went after her first, considering her means of escape, passports, connections, wealth. So they went after her, wrapped her up, put her on ice, and now they can focus on the core four and really hammer it home, because where are these girls going to go? They have means, right? They have some money, but they don't have Ghislaine Maxwell money, that's for sure. So I think that if we start to see these girls get arrested, like it looks like it's going to happen, then it appears that the government had a pretty concise strategy here when it comes to breaking the ring up and getting the co-conspirators arrested. But 4 more women named in legal documents as potential co-conspirators are yet to face arrest. Chief among them, Kellen, who spent around a decade working as Epstein's personal assistant. Not only just that, folks, okay? Not only as personal assistant, she was a constant in Jeffrey Epstein's life. She was on the plane, she was in New Mexico, she was on the island, she was in England. She was a constant in Jeffrey Epstein's life. She was a big part of Jeffrey Epstein's life. Her parents insist they knew virtually nothing about their daughter's duties because they became estranged from her around the time she took the job, aged 18 or 19. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the United States, if you're 18 or 19 years old and you do something criminal, what happens to you? Oh yeah, you go to jail. Okay? I don't want to hear, oh well, I was 18, I was 19, I didn't know. Sorry, there's a lot of 18 and 19-year-old people who committed crimes, who end up doing significant amounts of time in prison. You're not special. You're nobody special. You have no privilege, okay? So you're going to face the music. And I'm sorry that your parents are going to have to deal with that, but the fact of the matter is this. We all reap what we sow in life. And you have had this coming, Sarah Kellen Vickers, for years. So, you're just going to have to accept it. The sad split came after Kellen was expelled from their church for allegedly leading an immoral lifestyle that included nude modeling. Since then, they have seen Kellen, 41, on only a handful of occasions and still find it upsetting to see her face in family portraits or hear her name. Look, again, I am not the kind of person that ever attacks people's families like this, in situations like this. And even with like Andrew's kids and stuff, I really don't talk about that. It's not comfortable for me. I'm very family oriented, and I can only imagine what it's like to have a family member who is accused of something like this, and if you were close to them perhaps, and you didn't see that side of them, whatever it may be, it must be painful for her parents especially to know that their daughter was involved with something like this. Still, as much as I find it horrible and a very sad situation for her parents, that doesn't buy them any remorse when it comes to their daughter getting sent up and getting put in the clink. I want the most stringent penalty available slapped on every single person involved in this. However, Thomas, 75, a retired electrical engineer, told DailyMail.com, "We are sticking up for her, if that's what you want to call it, because we still feel we know her better than anyone." Come on, guys. I don't want to. I'm trying not to be overly critical of her parents here, but that's kind of a ridiculous statement, right? You've been estranged for all of these years. You've seen her maybe once, but you know her better than anyone. And again, all parents want to think that of their children, I'm sure. I mean, I can only imagine. But at the end of the day, when your kid is accused of something like this, and you're estranged, I don't think coming out and saying, oh, well, this is, we know her better than anyone, is the proper course of action. I think she was manipulated by Epstein due to her age and the circumstances. In my opinion, she's a victim just as much as some of the others. Ouch. I'm sorry, sir, that is incorrect. She is not. She was an adult. She knew what she was doing. She took part in abuse. If she was coerced into sexual acts with Epstein, and she was coerced into being trafficked by Epstein, you would have a valid argument, right? But this isn't what happened here. You're not going to paint that picture, and I'm positive that the prosecution will not let it be framed as such. She was told what to do and what to say. I feel she is still probably afraid to say anything, even now that he's gone. That is such BS. So, obviously, you don't know your daughter as well as you think there, sir, because we know her better than you just from the articles we have read. She was not manipulated. She was not forced into anything. She willingly took part in Jeffrey Epstein's criminal activities, and that is coming directly from the survivors. Kellen was raised in rural Hendersonville, North Carolina, around an hour south of Asheville, attending the local high school before being homeschooled for her final year. Her parents say that at 17 she married another member of her church, Noah Bonk, with their full blessing and moved to Hawaii. However, the relationship lasted just 3 years amid rumors that Kellen was more interested in a glamorous life of modeling and fashion. Yeah, so totally manipulated, huh? Married to this guy, living in Hawaii, but she was way more worried about modeling and fashion. And I'm sure that she didn't use Jeffrey Epstein's contacts once she was part of his orbit to get where she wanted to go, right? I mean, she never enriched herself off of Jeffrey Epstein. She was just a victim. Please. That excuse, they're all going to try and use it, and it's all going to fail miserably. I don't know exactly what went on in Hawaii. Sarah did some catalog modeling. I saw a picture online. Some of it was even nude, Mary said. The image in question appeared to a modeling assignment for a life-drawing art class rather than pornography. So again, her parents, obviously, they don't know her, and they're just acting out of instinct like any parent would. Look, I want to protect my kid, I'm going to come out swinging, and I'm going to try and lay down this defense that she was also a victim. But with concerns mounting over her behavior, Kellen was disfellowshipped, a disciplinary sanction whereby she was expelled from the church and ostracized by its members, including her own family. Well, it sounds like that is more of a cult, right? Sounds like that is more of a brainwashing situation. Ostracized by members of the church and your own family? Sounds like a real fantastic place. It was all handled out there. It's very private. There's a committee that meets and they go over everything. You're not privy to the information, even if you were a parent, Mary explained. Oh yeah, not a cult at all. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm for everybody practicing whatever the hell religion you want to practice. If you want to worship the rocks or, the spaghetti packet, that's not my business. I really don't care. But some of this stuff, you want to talk about cults and you want to talk about creepy. Some of the behavior of some of these groups just really flips me out. She wasn't mistreated or shunned. She made her own choices. She turned her back on Jehovah God. Her conduct went against the standards. It put us in a position where we could not have an association with her unless it was really necessary. So again, how do you know your daughter if you've never had any relationship with her? I couldn't look at her pictures. I had to put them all away. Even when I heard the name, it was emotionally traumatic for me. Reachable by telephone, Bonk insisted that Kellen was 18 when they wed, but he declined to discuss their relationship or the reasons for their divorce. I get it, right? Look, maybe they had some kind of rocky relationship, and this guy certainly doesn't want the media attention. So I get it, and I don't think anyone should harass the guy, but at the same time, I wonder what sort of secrets he might have that he could share about Sarah Kellen and those lost years. He is 5 years older than her, according to public records. We were on good terms. There was no animosity, he told thedailymail.com. She went her way, and I went my way. I haven't seen her for 19 years. I'm not defending her or sticking up for her in any way. She's a grown adult, and that's her life. I mean, when I knew her, she was a good person. That's all I can say. And yeah, look, that's the proper kind of comment, in my opinion. It's kind of a comment her parents should have made too. They don't know her any more than this dude. In fact, this guy probably knows her better than her parents. Without the support of a church, husband, or family, the Kellens believed their daughter was vulnerable to manipulation. She was drawn into Epstein's orbit when she became friends with one of his female employees. Oh, that's shocking, huh? The girl was commuting between Hawaii and the mainland U.S., but when her boyfriend complained about the traveling, she volunteered Sarah for the role and set up an interview. Sarah was quite young, 18 or 19. She just told us she was going to be a personal assistant to this investor, Mary said. She would go get whatever was needed. She traveled with them. I know she was flying a lot because her husband served her divorce papers at the airport. And that goes to what I was telling you, them talking about her flying a lot. She was really on the plane with Epstein quite a bit. She was connected to Epstein at his hip. All of the core four were. And they were rewarded handsomely. Okay? Lots of money, all sorts of perks, you name it. Kellen continued to have sporadic contact with her parents via email and letter for the next few years, apologizing for causing them distress and hinting at unease over her new job. Oh, okay. I just feel so confused. It's hard to express what I feel because half the time I'm not even sure, she wrote to her mother in June 2000. I think it shows that she was very vulnerable. She sounded desperate, confused, not knowing what to do, said Mary. She was trying to make a life for herself, but of course we didn't know what we do now. We didn't have a clue what she was getting into. Look, she loved that life. That is the life she wanted. She left her husband in Hawaii in pursuit of that life. Folks, she chose it. She chose to be around Epstein. She had her out when he got arrested, and she didn't take it. She stayed loyal. All the core force stayed loyal. That tells me everything I need to know about what they felt and how far and how deep they were involved. In a handful of face-to-face meetings over the next decade, Mary and Thomas would glean precious few snippets about their daughter's work, but they do recall one familiar name. She said they traveled a lot to Paris, her and Maxwell. She said they got along and that she was from a prominent family. My thought was Maxwell Coffee, Mary said. So again, a little tidbit, a little nugget. They traveled to Paris together, her and Maxwell. Yes, they did. What this does, though, is it establishes the connection between Maxwell and Kellen Vickers here and strengthens what we already know. More confirmation of them being together and more context. She said she had met a lot of interesting people, but she never elaborated. Sarah was never one to brag. While her work remained a mystery to her family, it was finally laid bare in the 2008 sweetheart deal that allowed Epstein to spend just 13 months in jail, much of it on barely supervised work release in exchange for pleading guilty to Florida state charges of unlawfully paying a teenager for sex. Every time I read the charge that he was slapped with and what he ended up going down for, it makes me want to vomit. That was even a law on the books or whatever. It's such a joke. It is such a joke. This man should have went to prison for centuries. The controversial non-prosecution agreement extended similar immunity to 4 potential co-conspirators, the Core Four, including Sarah Kellen and fellow executive assistants Adriana Ross, Leslie Groff, and Nadia Marcinkova. It meant Kellen could not face charges in Florida despite multiple girls describing how she would book them for massages and greet them as they arrived at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion before escorting them upstairs and laying out massage oils. And again, these assaults didn't just happen in Florida. They're protected by the Florida statutes, perhaps, and by the Florida plea deal, I mean. But when you start getting into some of the other crimes, well, we have a whole new pool of charges to look at. According to police reports, one survivor recalled Kellen and Maxwell instructing her on how to please their depraved boss. Others claim the pair had warned them not to speak out about what was happening. In the subsequent slew of lawsuits, Kellen was referred to as an assistant to Ghislaine, her second in command, and even the child abuser's lieutenant. Yeah, she definitely was that. Again, all 4 of these girls acted as capo regimes, as lieutenants, as bosses below the bosses. Sarah was really running that organization, bringing girls and getting them in and out of the Palm Beach home, Spencer T. Cooven, a lawyer representing several accusers, told the New York Times. She was also well compensated. Epstein divulged in a 2005 interview that he paid his closest assistants $2,000 a year. $200,000 a year. And we have discussed this already. Assistants in the same position on Wall Street are making $70K, $80K tops. These girls are bringing in $200,000 a year because he's not only paying them for their jobs, quote unquote, but that's hush money. That's money that makes them part of the conspiracy, right? Now they have a vested interest in keeping quiet. Not only are they criminally liable, but they have a vested financial interest in this operation keep going, right? In the operation going off in forever and a day is what they hoped, right? So they can keep collecting this money. They were hoping that they never got caught, that it never got busted up, and they were able to just keep on keeping the gravy train rolling. They are an extension of my brain. Their intuition is something that I don't have, he told the Chicago Tribune. Kellen traveled on Epstein's private jet, the Lolita Express, with former President Bill Clinton on at least 11 flights between 2002 and 2003, according to publicly available flight logs. Wait, didn't Slick Willie say he was only on that plane 4 times? Isn't that what his people said? I wonder, is Slick Willie telling the truth? We know that he has a problem with the truth. So could it be possible that he's lying once again? And don't you think that the legacy media might want to start asking some of those questions? In 2010 civil proceedings, she was asked under oath whether Epstein had ever shared underage girls with his close friend, Britain's Prince Andrew. On instruction of my lawyer, I must invoke my Fifth Amendment privilege, she replied. Of course she did. Of course she did, because they had that plea deal all worked out. She knew that if she went in there and just pleaded the Fifth the whole way through, that she was going to be protected under that plea deal, that Epstein was going to take care of her, and that she had nothing to worry about. It's unclear precisely when Kellen ended her employment with Epstein, though she was photographed in 2012 strolling arm in arm with the predator near his Manhattan mansion. By then, she was going under the name Kensington and changed her hair color from blonde to brunette and was dating Brian Vickers, a NASCAR driver whom she married a year later. This is in 2012, folks, remember. Epstein was already a convicted sex offender. And this so-called supposed victim is hanging out with him? Running around arm in arm with Jeffrey Epstein? Seems like a co-conspirator to me. She also reinvented herself as an interior designer, starting a business named SLK Designs and boasting on social media of having numerous clients in New York, the Caribbean, and Paris. Coincidental that all of those cities were used as places to abuse girls, huh? Just a coincidence though, right? Sarah Kellen Vickers had nothing to do with any of that. Kellen and her husband, who retired from racing and is involved in various real estate and investment projects, have links to properties in North Carolina, New York, and Miami. However, the petite former Epstein aide has not been seen since new charges were brought against him last July in the Southern District of New York, accusing him of sex trafficking girls as young as 14. Yeah, you think? She is definitely lying low. She was hoping that all of this would blow over, that it would end with Epstein's death, Ghislaine wouldn't get arrested, and she'd be able to go on with her caviar-eating life. Well, she was wrong, and now she has gone to ground. Didn't Ghislaine Maxwell go to ground before she was arrested as well? Kellen declined to speak with DailyMail.com, but provided a statement through her spokeswoman, Tracy Schmaler. When Sarah was targeted by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, she, like many of their victims, was struggling financially and emotionally, the statement read. This is disgusting. That this predator would come out and try and use the pain of the real victims in this case, the survivors, these young girls, as a defense for what she took part in doing to them is just beyond the pale. Sarah was an isolated young woman, having lost the only family she'd ever known and been divorced by an older man and then cast out of her Jehovah's Witness community. Oh yeah, divorced because it was his fault, right? It wasn't because she wanted to be a model. It wasn't because she was traveling back and forth across the country to go to Hawaii and wherever the hell else she was going. She got a little taste of that, and that's what she wanted. She chose that life. Soon after Sarah was brought into Epstein's world, he began to sexually and psychologically abuse her, abuse that endured for years. Sarah was one of dozens of assistants who worked for Epstein and Maxwell over the years. That's BS. There's only been one group of Core 4, and she was not only part of it, she was the ringleader. One of her many duties included scheduling various appointments for them, including massages, but at no time did Sarah go out and recruit girls for Epstein or Maxwell. Epstein was known for manipulating his victims to further his abuse of others, and Sarah was no different. She continues to struggle with the trauma he inflicted upon her and so many other young women. Oh, that would be all fine and well. Then why didn't she say that when she was on the stand, when she had a chance to validate and vindicate herself? I'll tell you why, folks. Because she thought she was going to get away with it. because Jeffrey Epstein was so powerful then, because people like Dershowitz were so quick to come riding in and white knight him. Kellen Vickers thought that she was going to get off, and since she thought she was going to get off, there is no need to burn that relationship with Jeffrey Epstein that has been so valuable to her. Mary and Thomas can only recall 2 meetings with their daughter over the past decade and say they have no idea where she lives. In 2011, she raced to a hospital in Raleigh, North Carolina, when Thomas was undergoing quadruple heart bypass surgery following a heart attack, flying home the very next day. Yeah, of course, she has to be, back with her other so-called polite society members, fellow travelers. Then, several years later, she and Vickers turned up unannounced at the childhood home where her parents still live. He was very respectful, very pleasant. He told us a little bit about the wedding, said Mary. She hadn't invited us. Well, I don't doubt it because you guys really weren't close according to your own statements, so why would you be invited to the wedding? Mary says she tries to block what's happening out of her mind because she expects her daughter will soon be arrested in the New York case, which is not subject to the Florida sweetheart deal. Epstein wasn't the sort of sex pervert you read about that kidnaps girls and keeps them in chains for years, she told DailyMail.com. These girls went home every night and willingly came back. He didn't need to chain them up because he had emotional and mental control. Yeah, with these young girls, perhaps, the ones he was grooming and manipulating emotionally and mentally, not a grown-ass adult like you who willingly took part in scheduling these girls to be abused and facilitating the abuse and laying out sex toys and shit. What are you, crazy? I think Sarah was susceptible to that because of her age and her personality. She was estranged from her family. She didn't know she didn't know what to do or where to turn. Thomas and Mary say they would gladly welcome their daughter back into the fold tomorrow, but she would need to re-enter their church and demonstrate a genuine commitment to their faith. Oh boy, you know what? I'm just not going to comment on that because I have some strong feelings about those sort of litmus tests for people. I love my family unconditionally, right? I don't care if you're part of the church or not part of the church. Perfect. Come on over to the barbecue and let's hang out. You're my blood. You're my family. If my family was Sarah Kellen Vickers, however, and she was charged and accused of some shit like this, I wouldn't have anything to do with them. Not one single minute would I spend with them, okay? Never mind inviting them back into my family. I would call them, and I would say to them, let's go to the FBI right now. You need to turn yourself in. You need to clear this all up. This is your chance. If not, don't ever bother calling this our family ever again because you're out. Not because they refuse to be part of whatever religious group you're part of or have the same faith that you have. I wish she had had the courage to walk away regardless of what that meant for her, but I know she is traumatized, added Mary. She's not a bad person. She was always very thoughtful, very kind. She was a good friend to her girlfriends, a loyal friend. She is our prodigal daughter, and it doesn't mean we don't love her. Look, Ghislaine Maxwell's excuse was she was nice to her friends and family as well. And we see the same thing here. They're going to try and paint it that she's a victim, that Sarah Kellen Vickers was just another girl that was preyed upon by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. But we know that's not the case. We know that Sarah Kellen Vickers had a leadership role. We know that she helped recruit and groom girls for Jeffrey Epstein. And we know that she enriched herself financially and socially on the backs of these girls being abused. And for that, she must answer the call of justice. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci@protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI@protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that pertain to this episode will be able to be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I'll be back tomorrow and we'll do it all over again.
Identity is data. That makes it both powerful and vulnerable, and everyone from election boards to business owners needs to understand why. Could identity management swing an election? What does OAuth have to do with the airline industry? Is IAM also brand management? And why should you care? Get ready for Hello User, where we explore how digital identities shape our world. Subscribe at pingidentity.com/podcast.
Rogue Nicotine on demand, delivered direct to your door. Available in all your favorite flavors and formats: pouches, gum, wintergreen, peppermint, and more. From your Monday morning coffee to watching hoops to dinner at the in-laws, Rogue Nicotine is there for you when you need it. Visit roguenicotine.com today and save 10% when you place your order for sugar-free, fast-acting Rogue Nicotine. Underage sales prohibited. This product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. For more information, visit roguenicotine.com.